hardest part of every session is the AV, so thanks W2 for helping us out. The fact that I have a mic working, they're good or bad for all of you. So this session is a love letter from the Community Cloud to all of our developers, admins, and architects. We've been collecting feedback over the last year and a half from developers, from our customers, from our partners, to learn about what you want with the Community Cloud product, what kind of things you'd like to do, what you cannot do, and we've been working really, really hard, mostly those two guys, not so much me. So in terms of quick introductions, I'm Harris. I'm a Senior Director of Product in the Community Cloud. I manage the developer tools and Lightning Web Components and a lot of platform capabilities for the Community Cloud DXP, the Digital Experience Platform. And then I'll let my colleagues introduce themselves.
Hello. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandeep. I'm a developer at Salesforce.
Hey, everyone. I'm Kavyan. I'm a senior member at Salesforce, and I've been working with Harris and Sandeep for this awesome feature that we have.
Yeah, it's been a rough 6 months for you guys working with me. So let's go to the next slide. Of course, you've seen this a million times, but Safe Harbor, they should have put this at the airport so everyone who lands sees this, and then you never have to show this again. But please make your purchasing decisions based off the product that exists today. There will be lots of new and exciting things, and a lot of things are upcoming in this session. Before we dive into all the details, I just want to level set everyone and talk about a little bit about the vision of the Community Cloud, the DXP, and where we're headed, and then we'll jump right into the details and a really rich demo. And at the end, we'll have some time for Q&A as well. So if we go to the next slide, again, level setting everyone. With the Community Cloud, our vision, it's evolved and it's been growing over the years, right? And with a lot of the feedback from you, our vision is to help you build any type of rich digital experience, whether it's a portal or a forum or a website or a mobile application, whether it's tied to Salesforce, whether it's not tied to Salesforce. We want to enable and empower you to be able to build any rich web experience. And as you build more rich web experiences, you want more developer tools. You want more customization. You want more productivity. And that's what the sessions focus on. And so jumping to the next slide, quickly in terms of momentum, it's been an amazing year thanks to everyone here. We're going live with 30 new communities every single day in production. It's amazing. 450 million monthly active users means the three of us are gainfully employed and have a lot of work to do, so that's always fantastic. But you'll see that there are a lot of different use cases and industry use cases and type of things that people are building, and thus these developer tools become even more and more critical. So let's go on to the next slide. Quick call out. So it has been a journey and the work is not over, but this year the Community Cloud is in the Gartner Leadership Quadrant for the DXP, which is amazing. It's been a several-year journey to get here, but the work is just starting. There's a lot of work you'll see, and there are many sessions today and tomorrow at Trailhead DX that you'll see where we're investing in the Community Cloud. All right, so let's kind of jump into the problem, right? We've been collecting feedback directly from you, directly through the sales team, directly from the customers and partners, through ID Exchange, Success Community, et cetera, right? And we've heard a lot of feedback. People want multiple developers working together and collaborating and being able to do that. Developers want to build locally and then be able to test and push those changes live. You want more API capabilities, enhancements with packaging and deployment. And so we've heard all this feedback, and we kind of boiled it into 5 key themes. So let's go into each of the key themes, and then you'll see all of this in action. So the first one is metadata properties. How many of you have heard of site.com? A lot of you people. OK, great. So site.com to me is French. I can't read it. And most people, no one can, I guess. So site.com is how all your community's metadata and all your properties are stored, right? And the first thing that we're doing is we're taking that and breaking it out, making it human readable, breaking it into a series of folders and files so that you can go in and edit any of the properties in there. And you'll have full access under the cover to everything you see declaratively or through the APIs right now. So that's the first thing. The second one is APIs. So through your journey, whether you're creating a new community, updating a community, making changes, building a component, theming, branding, pages, routes, APIs, right? We have a number of different APIs, but we're looking to plug in a lot of the gaps, and you'll see some of that in action. The third item is packaging and deployment. So on this front, we have a vision. We have a vision that if you are creating a community or a bolt or a managed package, you can take that from sandbox to production and not lose any of the data and metadata that you think is important or relevant. The next one is SFDX. So SFDX, who uses SFDX, the command line interface? Okay, a number of people, that's great. So SFDX, and you'll hear a lot about it today at Trailhead DX and a number of other sessions, is Salesforce's CLI. And so we are going live with native support of SFDX with the Community Cloud, so you can push changes, you can pull your community metadata, you can, if multiple people are working, you can view status and see what changes are being made. And then beyond that, when we touch the roadmap, you'll see other things that we're investing in with SFDX. And then finally, it's documentation. So yes, there will be a ton of new documentation that comes out with all the new features that are coming out, but also we're revamping our developer documentation, we're revamping our blog strategy, and we'll have a lot of content that'll provide you with rich information and use cases for different use cases. And so as we kind of jump into detail, quick recap, right? So site.com, people are familiar with. Experience Bundle is not replacing site.com, and you'll see what this is. Think of it as a translation engine. It takes site.com, it breaks it out into English, makes a structured series of folders and files that you can go and access from a number of different places. We've talked about CLI and chain sets. So chain sets is one of the many ways you can package and deploy your communities. And you'll see a number of enhancements with chain sets as well. So Workbench is one of the tools you can use for our APIs. There are other ones as well. Visual Studio Code is a Microsoft tool for IDE, which we're integrating more and more deeply with. And then, of course, the Community Builder is the declarative way with which you can do everything you'll see today. So with that, I want to hand it off to Kavyan, who's going to walk you through an example, and we'll show you demos. This session is going to be a lot of demos.
Thank you, Haris. So welcome to the interesting part of the session, that is demos.
So you're saying I was boring? Thank you.
No offense, Haris.
See what I have to deal with every day?
So yeah. So for this demo, we'll take the role of community developers working for a company called Capricorn Cafe, and we are going to build a community so that all coffee lovers can enjoy it. So myself, and Sandeep are going to run this demo. So yeah, let's get started. So as community developers, we'll have many lifecycle processes. We'll have a number of different ways with which we can develop communities. And in a high level, it will start from something like this. We'll start with creating a community from a base template, and then we would want to modify the community, change a few branding, as our case, we'll want to change the branding to brown to match coffee color, and add a few pages to show what are all the deals that are available. And once that is done, we would want to publish and activate the changes, and then so that members can use the community. So this is going to be our average life cycle. And if we do this in a sandbox, we would want to move them to production using chain sets. But you might have noticed that the current way of doing all these steps require us to go to the builder or the community setup UI in one way or the other and do it declaratively. But as programmers, we would want the programmatic capabilities to do the same. So let's see how all these steps have revamped now. So we'll start with the first step, that is creating a community. So when we create a community, currently we start from going to the community setup UI and then click on the create new community button, which will take us to a list of available templates where we actually give the community details like the community name and then community path, using which we can create a community. So from this release, we can do it programmatically through Connect APIs as well. So how do we do that? We'll go to Workbench here, and we'll try to fire this Connect API, that is /connect/community/templates. So this particular Connect API will give us a list of templates that are both custom and standard out-of-the-box templates. So as you can see here, we have a list of templates, And for our example, let's say I would want to use Capricorn Cafe template as as this is a custom template, and let's say I want to use that. So all I have to do is just copy this particular template name and then use it to create the community. So for that, I would use /connect/communities/connect API. So I'll also give the other details that we used to give, that is community name and community path. So once that is done, when we click on execute, the community will start to get created. So this is just one, so this is the first step on how we unlock programmatic capabilities. So Sandeep is executing the execute command. So as you can see, the community has started to get created. Wow. We have a nice start, right?
Isn't that cool?
Yeah. Now, so let's continue. So while the community is getting created, let's move to the next step, that is modifying community. So Harris touched a base about SFDX, and with the introduction of SFDX, developing in Salesforce has become much easier. And as community developers, myself and Sandeep would want to use the same tool to develop our community. But the current community's metadata is just Greek to me, Greek and Latin to me. So, but still, we did say that we are going to make this programmatic. And don't worry, we're not asking you to learn this language so that you can decrypt it. As Aris mentioned, nobody can decrypt this. So how do we make this particular file readable? So this is where our experience bundle comes in. Now, before I reveal too much, let's go back to our community setup and then see if our community had gotten created. So we'll go to our community setup UI and then try to refresh the page. There are two communities that you can see here, and we'll just wait for it. So unfortunately, the community hasn't gotten created yet, so we'll continue with an existing community, that is C Cafe demo. We'll continue with that thing. So we did tell you it is readable. And in Experience Bundle, it follows a 3-level folder structure on how the files are arranged. So it starts with the first folder, that is the experiences, that is the metadata type folder. And inside experiences, all the community site are having an individual folder by its own. So we had 2 communities that you had seen, and similarly there are 2 folders separately for each community here. And when we go to deep dive into a folder, you can see there are still more multiple folders here. And people, by just looking at the names, they can guess what these folder represents. But still, I'll give you a just quick recap. So the first folder that you see here, branding sets, corresponds to all the branding sets that you can see in the community. So all that comprises of the colors and all the branding sets go into the branding set folder. And there are files for each of the branding sets that we have. And configuration folder corresponds to each of the configuration that make up the community, like all the whitelisted languages and all the template details, like what template is currently getting applied and all that related stuff. When we move on to our next folder, it is the routes. And probably by the name, you can guess that route contains the route information. That is the route URL, page access, and those related stuff. So moving on, we have 2 more folders left, that is themes and views. Themes contain all the themes and theme layouts that are there in the community. So it also includes the definition of the theme layouts, and it also includes what theme layout it is, and then all that stuff. And similarly, views contain all the views or the pages, as people also like to call it, views or pages that are there in the community. So now that we've seen the structure, let's see how a file looks like. So Sandeep is currently opening the home.json, which corresponds to the home page in the community. So I'll let Sandeep open the builder as well, so that we can do a side-by-side comparison to see how our file translates to. So the builder is currently open for this awesome community that we have. So as you all know, a page is actually comprises of a set of regions and components under it. And similarly, let's see the page structure for this page. Well, there are a lot of regions that you can see, and we'll discard the ones that come from the theme or theme layout. We'll start with the one that is content header, content, and content footer. So those 3 regions make up the page that we are seeing here. And similarly, when we go back to our experience bundle home.json file in VS Code, as you can see here, there is a property called regions, which defines all the regions that are in the community. So one for each region. So content header will have a content region here. Similarly, content will have a content region property here, and so on.
Yeah, so quick pause on that. So you saw what site.com looked like, right? It was non-translatable blob. Now instead of that, you have all your properties, as Kavyan was mentioning, are exposed up here. So you can go in and change any property programmatically without having to go into the builder, which is super powerful. And you can have multiple people working on this at the same time and changing different parts of the community. So you can have teams of developers working on this. And our schema validation and error handling captures a lot of those scenarios as well.
Yeah. So we'll continue. So similarly, you can see components are also present under the components property under each region. And this can also include custom components, out-of-the-box components with the property that you give in the builder. So from builder, you can also give the data that it currently holds. So similarly, you can see it here in the attributes property here. So as you can see here, the properties are arranged much nicer. Now, let's recap what we've seen now. So few moments earlier, we started with a .site file, that is the entire community present in a single file, that is the .site file. And when we compare it with the decomposed structure, I would say this is much more granular and much more manageable. And compare it with the binary structure, binary format that it had, and let's compare it with the readable structure that it currently has. Well, this is definitely something. So this is, I would say this is very amazing. Now, want to see something cooler? Let's try updating a property. So to update a property, now let's take a particular example. Now, this is an example where people from non-San Francisco can easily relate to. Yeah, I'm talking about summer. I've been here for around a week, and I don't see any difference between winter and summer. So I think people who are non-San Francisco people can easily relate to it. So since it is the beginning of summer, I would want to change my community's page background to a more soothing color, to let's say something like a light blue or a light green, something like that. So currently, if I want to do that, I would have to go to the builder and then go to the themes. I click on themes, and then I have to click on colors, which lists me all the brandings for my which lists me all the available branding for the community site. And then I have to go to the page background color and then change the color here. Well, I would say this constitutes about like 4 or 5 clicks. Well, what if I have 10 communities and I want to do the same? I have to do around 50 clicks for the same change. Well, 50 clicks for the same change, well, that's a little too high. And as community developers, we all would like to have a programmatic access for the same thing, right? Now, let's see how Experience Bundle helps us here. So in Experience Bundle, Sandeep is going back to our VS Code, and then he's opening our branding sets folder where we had shown earlier, where it contains all the branding properties. So we can easily go to a branding set folder, and then we can search for the page background color property. So that is a property that defines the page background color for that community. So currently it is a different color, so we can just change it to, well, I would want light blue. So let me change it to light blue. So before we push these changes, there is one thing that you might have noticed. We did change it in the builder to some other color. Sandeep did change it to some other color like green. It was a little orange shade earlier, now it is green. And I am changing it to a different color from my local side. And what happens, so this is a prime example of parallel programming. What happens if it is changed in the server, and what if I'm trying to change something in the local? Well, before I reveal it, let's try to push it and see what happens. So Sandeep is using SFDX for source push. So what it will do is it will take all our local changes, and then it will do a metadata deploy. Yes, as you can see here, the deploy has failed with the error message saying a conflict. And it also tells us where the conflict is. It says it is in the branding sets, because we've edited the branding set. So by this way, it is much easier for multiple developers to work on the same community. So yeah, I would say this is cool. Since we are working on the same community, this is a very powerful feature that I can use. And yeah, so now I know that now I can go back and see what Sandeep had made the change. So he has changed it to green, and either way I have to change it back to light blue. So let me try to override those changes. So for overriding these changes, I can easily append a -f to the command, which will give more precedence to the local changes here. So while this is getting deployed, let's try to go back to our builder and then try to refresh it. So this is currently in our green color right now. So when we try to refresh it, our changes, if it had gone in, it would have changed our background color to the required color, that is the light blue. Wow, it's much more easier, right? It's light blue now.
He feels so happy. But
actually, yeah.
But the key thing is, we gave you one example of changing one color, but imagine you're making hundreds of changes, and instead of having to, 5 clicks times 10, making many, many changes declaratively, now you can do this programmatically in one single place, and then push and make sure no one else is overriding your changes. So that really changes the way you build communities.
Yeah. And this is just one small example of how powerful Experience Bundle can be. You can do it in multiple number of use cases. You can clone an entire community or clone parts of a community or move components between pages. The list of use cases, I would say, are just endless because we made it readable and updatable. Now, because it is readability and updatability is a little powerful tool. And what if we make some mistakes? So what if, for example, I miss a required property? So we saw multiple properties in this file here. What if I miss a property? Or what if I give an unsupported value to a property? So let's try to recreate a simple scenario. So there is routes already open. So let me open a route file. And there are multiple properties that constitute a route here. So like URL prefix, label for the route, and page access, etc. And by just looking at this, I would say a property like URL prefix is a very important property because it defines what the first part of the URL is. So what will happen if I try to remove this property? So let me try to remove this property and use the same command that we had just seen earlier, that is sfdx force source push. So let us try to push these changes. Now ideally, I wouldn't want the changes to be pushed because a part of the data is actually missing, and it might put my community in an unstable state And let's see how our Experience Bundle handles it. Yeah. As you can see here, it had failed with a proper error message. And by the error message, you can easily guess what went wrong. It says the property label, which says the property name is missing, and it also tells us which file it is missing. So through this, it is much easier for me to trace back to where I went wrong, and then I can easily I can easily rectify my mistake. So now that we've made our required changes, let's hear from Sandeep how to get these changes to live.
Hey, everyone. Yeah. We have seen Kavian demonstrate how SFDX capabilities are enriching the developer experience, right? He started from creating a community and modifying the community. Now I would take it to the publishing and activating the community and finally deploying to production, right? So if you go back and look at the current way of doing the publishing the community, yeah. So we can see that there's a button called publish, and I think you're all familiar with that, and that's how you publish the community so that the community becomes live, right? With this release, we have a Connect API for that as well. So I'll go back and use the same workbench tool that Kavian has earlier used. And you can read the URL which says connect/communities. For this, I want to get all the communities that are there in mine and select one community which I want to publish, right? And then add a publish to it, and it's a post, definitely, because you're making changes, and then execute it. And you can see we are publishing your changes is a message. And this is asynchronous, right? And after some time, your community should be published. Now, when this is getting published, let's go and see how to activate a community, the next step in our community developer lifecycle. In order to activate a community, we already have access to the metadata API. Like, if you have not used it, let me show you how to do it, right? So there's a networks metadata that you can see here, and that one contains the network metadata.xml. This is one that defines the state of the network, like the community. Now, if you look at for a field called status, right, and it's currently under construction. Now, to make it activate, I have changed it to live. And save it, and then use the same SFDX capabilities of SFDX force source push. When I push these changes, yeah, it looks like there's a conflict. So so the conflict happens when there is some changes in the builder, and as Kevin has already demonstrated, and the changes in the local as well. Now, when I make these changes and push it, the deployment happened now. Now the community should be activated. Now let's go back to the community workspaces then refresh it to see that now it's preview. We have to see that it's activated. Yeah, we can see that it's activated, and we can also see the other community that Kavian has created is also created before. Like, it took some time, yeah, but it's created.
That's why you know it's a real demo.
Yeah, sure. Now I think the community developer lifecycle is done. Now it's going to be deploying to production. And we want to be super careful when we want to deploy to production, right? So for deploying to production, we have a feature called chain sets. Are you aware of that? How many of you are aware of chain sets? Well,
pretty much
okay,
everyone, okay.
Yeah. Okay, let me recap for a few folks who do not know about this. Chain sets, as Harris mentioned, is a way to make your changes in the sandbox, test them, and then deploy to production, right? So we also have an awesome trailhead called chain sets deployment model. You can check it out. I'll give you the resources to that at the end of the deck. So if you look at the chain sets today, we have an option called view source. View source, you can use that option to see what changes are going to be deployed to production. Like if you click a view source of site.com today that you all have access to, this is what you see. Again, we're back to the same .site file. And I'm sure most of you might have read this but do not understand this and then never dare to open it again. So this is how it is, right? So if you go with the current format and look at the view source, this is what you see, the whole broken down structure that we have seen there. With this, you can see all the changes that you have done, starting from the routes, the new pages that you added, the branding sets that you have changed, everything that you can see, and then make a call whether you want to deploy or just postpone it, right? So here, just before deployment, you got one more chance to review your changes and then deploy. Isn't it awesome? I think you'll like this, and I would be very much eager to get this feature as soon as possible, right? Yeah, and we have seen good amount of demos now. Like we have seen Kavian started from creating a community where he has used the Connect API to create the community, and then it went on to modifying the community where we have seen validations taken in place. We have seen how to modify a community, and then he has used the SFDX capabilities for that. And I have shown you how to publish the Connect community using the Connect API, and then activating the community using the metadata API that you already have access to. And then we've also seen how Experience Bundle has come to our help in viewing the source of the chain sets that is getting deployed. Well, that is all like awesome stuff that we have seen all this time. Well, there are a few more things that are there that are coming in your way that will keep you excited. And this is the roadmap, right? And this is the Summer 19 that we have currently that we're talking about. And we have seen the SFDX support that we have, the Visual Studio command line tool. And we also saw how Experience Bundle has helped us in chain sets to view the source. And we have seen the validation support where, since you have got the programmatic capabilities, you cannot make any changes that you want, which will make the community go into unstable state. And we have also seen the Connect APIs that we have exposed for multiple ways. Now, what's next is the open beta or pilot in winter 20. So we'll have some external validations. What it means is we already have the validations in place. We'll have fail-fast kind of validations. One example I could think of is the schema validation, where even before it goes to the actual processing, it just stops if there is some problem with the schema, like you have components and you have children regions, which is not right, right? So those kind of validations you'll have, and LWC runtime support is on the way for the winter 20. And next, we will be having the packaging support, and we have seen that during the demo process, we have used Workbench, where we use the Connect API, and where we've shifted to the SFDX to demo some features. So, right? So it would be smoother if we had to stick to one IDE, and I said it, sit down there, just type something, CLI, and then push the changes. It would be very cool, right? So we're going to work on few SFDX commands, and like few of the examples I can take is the publishing the community that we have seen, creating a community, and many more. And we're not going to have support for B2B and commerce templates. And the next up is the personalization support. Next slide. Yeah, as I promised you, we have the recommended reading, where I've talked about the chain sets deployment model, but how to deploy your chain sets. And we have the Experience Bundle, developer documentation, SFDX, and the Connect API documentation. This will be handy to you, and you can actually use them. Well, there are a few more sessions that are lined up for this. Stay tuned for them. I'll give you a minute to just go through that, and that's just that.
Yeah, and finally, I know one last slide after this one. If you go to the next one, it's party time. So the Community Cloud and Commerce Cloud, we are hosting an event today at 5 o'clock at the Thirsty Bear, which is close by. If you'd like to talk to other like-minded developers, folks from the Community Cloud, full access, free food and drinks, please come to the happy hour. So with that, I think we can switch over to questions and answers. If people have any questions, they can line up at the speaker. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey guys, I'm Maurice Daniel from Accenture. I had a quick question.
Yes.
There's going to be any additions to community being able to deploy audience definitions, audience management?
Yeah, great question. So there's two parts to it. One is when you're packaging and deploying audiences, in the summer release, in the winter release, your audience assignments will also carry over. So if you've already configured your audience to a component, page, et cetera, with the winter release, those will carry over as well, and you don't have to reassign them.
Nice. All right.
Hey guys, that was great. We've been looking at the experience bundle, and it's great really for the GitHub and keep it your source in the source control, right? Yeah. I notice it's in kind of development mode still, right? So when is the release for that? Because it's really hard for us to kind of commit to it to go into production with something that is kind of preview really yet.
Sure, I can take that one. So the APIs to create, publish, activate, all of those are GA with the summer, so they're live already. Then with the experience bundle and the SFDX integration, that's available as dev preview in the summer. So that means it's available for everyone in DE orgs. The goal is with the winter release to open beta, so you can open beta or pilot, so you can use it more extensively. For example, in Sandbox, right, where you're doing a lot of the work. And then the following release, the spring release, the goal is to GA, so you'll use it Sandbox production across the board.
Thanks, guys. Great job.
Thanks.
Just wanted to make sure and confirm something I saw. You went over it kind of quickly. You were able to activate a community but not create or publish with the metadata API with Salesforce DX, is that right?
Yeah.
You had to use a separate REST API?
It's a connect API, yes.
Is there plans to get the create or publish within the...
For creating through metadata API, you can still do that by, so we had seen it in folders, right? We can create another folder with the new community site name, and you can still push it, which will still create the new community. So similar to how we do it earlier as well. So that is still done, but publish, I'm not.
Yeah, so with the publish, it was on the roadmap. One of the things we want to do, this will be more spring release. It'll be where we have a number of new commands, like a direct create command, a direct publish command, ability to create page, all through SFDX, where you can just type one line and define the right properties and push it, and it'll go live.
Got it.
That's the goal.
Thank you.
Hi there. Do you get to choose how you adopt this, or does it just go live in your org and then you're in the new format? Do you get to pick how you transition from the single file that's hard to read to the bundle?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the summer release, for example, we're going dev preview. There's an org pref that you can enable so that you have access to it, right? And so if you choose for some of your orgs you want it on, you can. Some, if you don't want on, you can keep it off. And so the goal is longer term, we want everyone to use it, and it's optional, right? So even if it's default on, it's up to you and your team to define if you're going to use this or the APIs or the builder declaratively. That'll be in your control, and you'll have the org pref. If for whatever reason you want to turn it off and take those away, you'll have the ability to do that as well.
Quick follow-up. So if you're using source-driven development and you have it represented as a binary file or whatever we would call that, once you turn it on your next poll, will you get all the files? What's the transition from those two in source control look like?
So I think your question there is can I control this, turn it on or turn it off? I mean, under the hood, we're always using site.com. So the way it's stored, how it's stored in the server, all of that is actually not changing. We've added a layer on top called the experience bundle, which takes your site.com and it translates it to English and then breaks it out into a series of files and folders. So now, even when you do turn it on in the new world and you use it, in the end, it'll store everything in the same way as it used to as site.com. So in effect, it's not impacting how you're storing it and how it works under the hood. But for humans, we're exposing it up so that you can control it.
And just to clarify, that means that you can just use that tool or not. So if you have an existing site that you've built out, you can just, there's no conversion.
Yes, great question. There is no conversion. With your existing sites, you can choose to use it, or you could choose to keep it the same way that you wanted before. Right? There's zero conversion. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for this. Deploy to production question. Solid chain sets are supported. Is deploy via the metadata API supported in the dev preview?
Deploy via
via the metadata API, like using,
Yeah, MD deploy.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Yeah, it is
also supported.
It's okay. How do we get in the dev preview?
It's available with the summer release, so in the next couple of weeks for all DE orgs. Yeah. Thanks.
So I have a question when it comes to audiences and external URLs. So you could limit the access to landing pages with audiences and with permissions. But when it comes to an external URL, we find ourselves redirecting to a page that then will redirect us to the external URL. The reason being is so we use an audience to limit some users to see that link. Would there be in the future any type of audience for external URLs or no?
That's a good question. I would like to talk to the audience team, who are our sister teams, to confirm what their plans are. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure if you guys know.
Well,
You'd have to confirm.
We're happy to connect and have a conversation about it offline.
And another thing that we see is that let's say they have different type of users there, and the navbar is standard for everybody. So there's no way that we could have different navbars and for different users in the community. That would be something great also.
Okay, it's good to hear that feedback. So the team is working on the nav bar, the nav menu. In fact, right now there's a couple of steps to get to what both of you are pointing towards. The first is, I believe in the winter release, we will have connect APIs for the nav bar, nav menu, right? So one, you'll be able to programmatically configure all of it. Second, you'll be able to package it and deploy it, and all your properties, metadata and data properties will carry over. And then the third, it'll support audiences as well. So that's something that the Community Cloud is working on. And so it'll be, some of it's in the winter release and some of it's in the spring release. Any more questions? I guess that's pretty much it. So let's wrap up. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.